Um, so there's a trailer for a trailer for Guardians of the Galaxy 3 was officially released. It is seemingly the same trailer that was shown at E3. I'm not E3, Comic Con a while ago. Um, and yeah, they're in a version of their like original uniforms from the comics from back like in like what 2007 or something like that. Um, during Annihilation, and yeah, the trailer it wasn't like honestly it wasn't a particularly good trailer. It was an alright trailer. I'm excited for the movie simply due to the fact that the last two Guardians films are amazing, and I just assume the third one's going to be great, especially since this is James Gunn's last Guardians film. He's going to go all out. I'm excited to see Adam Warlock. Adam Warlock's a very interesting character that I just want to see more of, and he's in the Guardians game. He's a very pivotal character in that game. And I'm interested to see how they what they do with him in this. I wonder if we'll see or get any hints about like what they're going to do with the Nova Corps in this universe, because I have an idea for the Nova Corps, but I'm going to get into that after I hear your thoughts. Also, this was the reason I ended up rewatching the first Guardians film, because I saw the trailer and I was like, I want to watch Guardians. But yeah, thoughts on the trailer?
I don't see Rocket making it out alive. It makes me a little upset.
People are debating whether Drax or Rocket will die. And a lot of people are leaning towards. Well, it goes back and forth, but a lot of people who I follow specifically on Twitter are leaning towards Drax.
I haven't seen a lot. I've seen like 2 people mention Drax. I've seen most people mention Rocket, and I don't want anything to happen to Rocket. I can care less about Drax, honestly. I like Drax in the comics.
I think
Drax
Rocket's gonna be fine. I think Rocket's gonna make it. I don't think they're gonna kill Rocket. I think they might kill Drax though.
My thing is, people have been like thinking Rocket's gonna die. It's the same thing with Captain America. People were thinking Captain America was gonna die like all the way back in like Avengers #1. Like I remember reading articles about that, and people being like, "Why Captain America is not gonna survive?" And every single movie that featured Captain America in it, there was like 10 articles. Why Captain America is not gonna survive? Blank, 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 blank. And he still technically isn't officially dead. So I'm hoping that the same thing's gonna be true for Rocket, because people have been saying Rocket's gonna die since like Guardians 2, and he's still here.
Yeah, I think
so. I really think it's not Rocket.
I think with this, because the story is so heavily focusing on Rocket and the High Evolutionary having had created Rocket and introducing I forget her name, but his little outer friend. I feel like the story is gonna end with, because I think they're gonna make like a new Guardians team. It's probably gonna consist of a lot of the same members, but yeah, I don't think Rocket's gonna go. I think he's still gonna be there.
I hope not.
But I like I said, I hope that there's some type of hint at like some future Nova stuff, because Nova Corps in the MCU, they I don't know, they just didn't do too much with them. They were heavily featured in the first one. They were mentioned that they were destroyed, and not destroyed, but Xandar was destroyed, and what is it, Infinity War, and like anybody who knows anything about the comics, bruh, Xandar gets destroyed every 5 seconds. Xandar can't catch a break, or the Nova Corps. Nova Corps gets completely wiped out, and Xandar gets destroyed like every other day. Like this is on a near constant basis. This is like just regular stuff for Xandar and Nova Corps. So I have an idea, right? So with like the heavy involvement of the Nova Corps in both Guardians movies, right? And in the Guardians movie, the Guardians movies and the game, it has me thinking about Richard Rider a lot and his potential in the MCU. And I think that they're kind of in a position to tell a really good story about police reform. So, for those who don't know, Nova Corps is essentially like Marvel's equivalent of the Green Lantern Corps. They're like a galactic police force. And with the destruction of Xandar and a good portion of the Nova Corps, in both during that attack as well as back in the first Guardians film. During those, like, the story could be like Richard could have become, the Nova Prime, and during those 5 years after the snap was helping survivors in a similar fashion to the way Captain Marvel was in other parts of the galaxy, along with the remaining Nova Corps. And maybe during the process he learns about like the corruption and how they have been mistreating certain systems or certain planets, and decides that with the destruction of Xandar, it's like a right time to rebuild and structure the Corps to help people properly. I feel like I don't think they're gonna do this, but it would be cool if they use this as an opportunity to tell a story about police reform and how in an ideal world, how that would work. I think that would. I feel like that would just be an interesting story. What are your thoughts on that?
Uh, well, the Nova movie, I don't really care what it's about. I prefer if they started with Richard. But in an ideal world, for me, I feel like they would have started with Richard in high school. They would have gone through the whole Richard Rider story. They don't need to necessarily, but I feel like
the thing is, they could always, because like, universe is big, and early MCU didn't feature a lot of like space stuff other than like the Chitauri coming to Earth. Like it was always space characters coming to Earth. So like they could do like they could easily have a Richard Rider story that takes place in the past and like outside of like anything else happening because it's like way far out deep in the galaxy. So it's easy to remove it and have that have had happened without us knowing and it not like screw up the timeline or whatever. So yeah, they could easily still tell a story with him being probably not high school but like early 20s, having just joined the Nova Force.
honestly, I wouldn't mind seeing him like in college, like a college version of that. I just really want more like high school superhero on screen.
Here's the thing, though. They're not going to do that because if they introduce a high school Nova, it's going to be Sam Alexander.
But I want to see the Richard Rider in high school doing that whole thing, going off with the Guardians. And again, this is in an ideal world, and they're not going to do it because it's way too late for them to do all this. But like, I like seeing the legacy and like how that changes, how they like, how it's different for Richard going through high school and doing that versus Sam going through high school and doing that, and like different times and seeing that happen with different characters. And that's something that I really like. That's why I like seeing Peter in high school and then Miles in high school. Like I like seeing stuff like that personally. And I know they're not gonna do it, but I would love for them to do it in an ideal world.
They're definitely not going to do
Outside of that, I don't really care much about what the story would be as long as they balance Richard's Earth life with his, or like his struggle to balance his Earth life with his like Nova life.
They're definitely not going to do high school Richard Rider. I don't know why they would do that. I don't think anybody really wants that except you. Nobody wants high school Richard Rider. If they do Richard Rider, he's going to already be an adult. And if they do high school Nova,
best stories are he's in high school.
High school Nova, you could still do stories like that, but with him being older though. You could translate those to older Nova. And like I said, if they do, high school Nova, it's 100% going to be Sam Alexander.
I still want to see Sam too, but I want to see her.
Yeah, they can do both. But yeah,
this is why is it taking so long for Nova? That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I understand why it's taking so long for Nova either because they introduced the Nova Corps already. But yeah, random like casting idea, but like Scott Eastwood might make a decent Richard Rider.
I do not know who that is.
Clint Eastwood.
I know. I can assume that he's Clint Eastwood.
Yeah, he's Clint Eastwood.
I've never seen this.
Well, if you look him up, you'll probably recognize his face. He's 36. He's not too old for it, he could still play like a early 30s Richard Rider. And then maybe you could either he's only 36. He's not old. Like you could probably like make him look younger and have him play a younger version of himself in like flashbacks or something.
Definitely seen this dude like a billion times.
Yeah, I was like, when you look him up, you're gonna recognize him. He's in a lot. He's like just in a lot of stuff. Like he is in a lot of stuff. Like he isn't a particularly famous or like I don't know how good he is. Like I've seen him in a few things and he's decent. Like he's not the greatest actor ever, but he's just like always working.
He's about his bag, though.
Yeah, he's trying to get that money. I mean, his father's Clint Eastwood. He doesn't need the money. But